Very good morning and welcome to Core Finance TV. My name is Malcolm Grahamwood and I'm thoroughly looking forward to doing another CEO interview. And this morning my guest is Paul Welch, CEO of SDX Energy. Lovely to have you back, Paul.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. It's nice for you to make a return visit.
My pleasure.
They don't always come back, but so much has happened since we last spoke.
Yep.
And I'd like to go into a few things in some detail, but
Sure.
But there are always people who don't know that much about SDX and newcomers to the block and so on.
Sure.
So perhaps you could give a bit of an overview of SDX for us.
Yeah, happy to. So SDX Energy is an E&P producer. We're focused on North Africa. We produce at the moment 4,000 barrels a day, 3,000 which comes from Egypt and 1,000 barrels a day equivalent from Morocco. We have about 100 or so employees. We're looking to expand across North Africa, but our focus for the moment is between Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia. So those are the places that we tend to look at.
Good stuff. Quoted in Canada and in London?
Yes, we're TSX and AIM listed with the same ticker symbol, SDX, so if anybody wants to participate.
Excellent. And just to sort out the financial position, your strong position, no debt and some cash?
Yes, so we have about $40 million in working capital, of which $29 million is cash. The other remainder is the receivables in Egypt, which I think we'll talk about here shortly. And we have no debt. And so I think that puts us in good stead.
Good stuff. And just to sort out the receivables situation in Egypt, which has been getting better every time I speak to you.
That's true. And I think it's not only getting better for us, it's getting better for everyone. We had no receivables until we did an acquisition in January of 2017 with a company called Circle. At that point in time, we picked up about $30 million of receivables. Over the course from January 17 till today, we've worked that down. So I think at the moment, our receivable position is about $14 million. So the Egyptians have really delivered, not only for us, but for other companies as well. So receivable position is, I think, by the end of this year, early part of next year, will be gone. So today, I think what's important is if we produce $100 worth of oil, they're paying us $100. And so,
who would have believed that a little while ago? That's great news. And as a resume, just before we go into each individual country, you're in the process. We've just completed a Moroccan drilling campaign, which was 7 from 9, and you're just towards the end of the Egyptian campaign, which is 3 from 4 so far.
So far, yeah.
So far, good. Let's talk about Egypt first.
Okay.
That would be good because you announced another gas discovery yesterday at South Tassouk, which in itself is beginning to look good. What's the prognosis there?
So the well we announced yesterday was the SD4X well, which was the first offset well to the original discovery SD1X that we made in April 2017. Now for us, it was important because we had told people this is what we think it is. This is the size of it. We expect it to get larger as we get off the crest, which a lot of people were suspect of, but it worked. So the original well we found 82 feet of pay with an average porosity of about 24%. This well came in with 89 feet of pay, and the other thing too is it's off the crest, right? So we had 89 feet of pay here, about the same quality, about 24% porosity. So the original well tested 26 million cubic feet a day when we originally tested it. It was surface constrained. This well we expect to test between 30 and 35 million a day. We are focused on developing this area, not only South Tassouk but Ibn Yunus, which we'll talk about in a second. And the expected flow rate on plateau is 50 million cubic feet a day. So from these 2 wells alone, we're already going to have 50 million a day because the original well had about 200 million RCs of perm. Ibn Yunus, which another discovery we have in the area, had almost a Darcy. So these wells are just fantastic.
Excellent,
I mean, it's a fantastic area. So,
and so talk us through Ibn Yunus as well, because obviously.
So Ibn Yunus was another discovery that we made. It's about 4 kilometers kind of north of the original SD1X discovery. What we're going to do beginning now, essentially, is we're going to put together a development plan, which means we're going to send a central facility next to the original discovery, and we're going to tie everything back. So SD4X is a 3-kilometer tieback. Ibn Yunus is a 4-kilometer tieback, and then we have a 10-kilometer line that we're going to lay to the grid.
Right.
So it's a very simple development.
Yeah. Just before we forget that, I seem to remember that you had a 5th contingent well in South Tassouk. Is that sort of not needed now you're doing so well? Or
well, it's not needed from a flow capacity standpoint. We're going to drill another well in the structure, which is, for whatever reason, SD3X. We're going to drill that well after the 4X well. If that one comes in much bigger than we expect, then potentially we'll go to that 5th well and drill. The rig contract we have allows us an option. The well's been staked and permitted, so it's good to go. if we see the potential, we'll do it. Based on the current development plan, it's not needed because we can meet the rate that we have forecast. But again, if there's upside, we'll take it.
Excellent. And what else have you got going on in Egypt? Because obviously South Suq and Ibn Yunus is the sort of sexy area, but there's other stuff which you've been putting money down in.
Well, there's other areas. You know, we have 2 producing oil assets in the Eastern Desert, Masada and Northwest Kemsa. In the case of Northwest Kemsa, it's a relatively mature asset. It's producing about 4,400 barrels a day.
You upped your stake there, didn't you?
We did. When we did the Circle deal, we went from 10% equity interest up to 50, which was a great deal for us. So there, we're kind of just maintaining a plateau. It's, as I said, it's relatively mature. But the great thing about it is that our OPEX is less than $8 a barrel. We're getting Brent prices less 10%. So our margin is like 25 bucks a barrel at the present time. So there, we're just kind of maintaining production. I think what people might have forgotten is that in Masada, you know, we've had, 4 discoveries on the trot in the Rabble area and probably 1 more to go. So that area, between just 2 wells we recently drilled in this year is making an additional 2,500 barrels. So that area has a lot of potential yet to be tapped. At the moment in Masada, we're moving the rig to drill 2 infill locations. We expect those wells to be spud in the very near term. And then at that point, we'll kick those off, and we've already started the water flood, and we started to change the pump. So our production is anticipated to increase here. We forecast out at the moment 3,800 barrels a day flat for 2018 in Masada. We have been significantly above that for a little while, and so mid-year we're going to look at it and say, should we up our forecast? So I think there we've seen good growth, and there, as you and I have discussed in the past, we have a different contract. So here it's a service agreement. So our netbacks, which are $20 a barrel in Masada, in Northwest Kemsa, here they're 35. So it's quite a decent contract there. So
and so when we were talking about Morocco all the time, we didn't talk about Egypt. Now we're talking about Egypt, and we're talking about the others. So it's actually, this is part of which is sort of forgotten about.
Really. It is.
So and it's still doing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Morocco.
Okay.
Because, although now we're talking about Egypt a lot, it wasn't that long ago that you completed your, as I say, 7 from 9 drilling campaign, highly successful. Having been out there with you a little while ago, actually I was most excited about the exploration wells in the north that were the best, but talk us through it. Why don't you talk us through the campaign and where you're going from here?
Right, so I think we also have to talk about the LMS1, which I think is key here as well.
Yes,
so
I was going to do it after, but you can do that first if you like.
Okay, so we drilled the 9 wells. 2, as you pointed out, the last 2 wells were exploration wells up in the north, Lala Mamuna area. So we drilled the LNB1 and the LMS1. LNB1 came in just fantastic, much better than expected. Discovered about a 10 BCF structure there, whereas normally we're drilling for 1. LMS1, similarly, we think we found about 4 to 5 BCF here. We had a heck of a time drilling this well, as I think we've discussed in the past. It's an area that has geopressure, so it's a higher pressured area. Going into it, we expected to have to increase the mud weight. When we hit this original structure, the pressures we experienced were 20 to 25% more than we had anticipated. So as we're drilling down this well, the well is flowing gas like crazy. It's cutting our mud, so we're having to continue up the mud weight. We upped the mud weight to the point where we got the well under control. We drilled to TD. We then successfully logged it, pulled out, came in with the testing program. We ran in the hole to test, expecting it to be another fantastic success, and lo and behold, it flowed very little gas, which kind of perplexed us. So our original thought was, well, we shot the well off depth, so we perforated it along the wrong place, so we ran in the hole. No, it's in the right spot. We start thinking about it, looking at it, we recognize that the section that we had penetrated had not been penetrated before. And so some of the materials we used to weight up the mud, we think reacted with some of the clays and the sandstone, and it caused a zone of damage around the well. So
this is the skin.
It's a skin area. So if you look at it, we have like 1,000 psi pressure drop across that skin, which completely restricts the flow. So if it was in Egypt, we'd just say, okay, fine, let's go get some acid, get a little bit of pressure. We'll just do a small little acid frac and clean it up. because we're in Morocco, we're not in the center of the oil patch. We have to plan this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go away, plan the job, and then the next drilling program, we're going to come back and execute on that. So
and you think that the good reservoir is still the good reservoir?
oh yeah, no, the good reservoirs. I mean, what I think was remarkable about this well is that we had 32% porosity in a 16-meter section, when we typically have been drilling for say 30% porosity in a 3 and 4 meter section. So it's there. We're not concerned about it. It's just an unfortunate event, but these things happen, particularly when you're in a frontier area. Looking at the cuttings now, it looks like there's some kaolinite in there, and we think that reacted with some of the elements that we put in the mud. So we'll get it solved, but not everything is perfect.
No, well, thanks for addressing that. So let's talk about the rest of Morocco and how's it going.
So the rest of Morocco, I think, is going quite well. We had 7 of 9. If you remember some of the well tests, each well we tested was in excess of 6 million cubic feet a day, and currently that's what we're selling on a daily basis. So any one of the individual wells, could have met our daily requirements. We are in the process of adding new customers to the system, because as we've discussed in the past, here we're a full service provider in that we own the gas molecules with our partner from the subsurface, put them in our own pipeline, and then we sell them at the burner tip, right? So for us to grow that business, we have to find new customers, and so that's what we've been doing. So we've connected, as you were there, we connected Peugeot. So the car manufacturer is now connected. They've started to take a little bit of volume, and we're in the process of adding 3 additional customers. They should come online throughout the year. So our target here is to increase our gas sales from currently 6 million a day up to 8 to 10 by the end of the year. And then as we move on into 2019 and 2020, go 16 up to 24.
24 is the
Project Van Katra with your two friends from Arnhem. So we have Project Van Katra with the state, which is Project 24. That's the maximum capacity that the line can handle without compression, and so that's our target. So over the next 3 years, we're trying to get to 24 million cubic feet a day, which will allow us to increase our revenue by 4-fold.
Yeah, and the state of it, I mean, we're saying that you're getting $10 or $10.50 MCF at the moment. There are 2 things there. First of all, on the upside, I seem to remember the state saying they're initiating plans to go to more towards 12, and on the downside, you've still got 1 or 2 old clients, presumably, who roll over existing, so they'll have to go to a higher price.
Yes, we've rolled over those older customers. So the previous customers were buying gas at $8.10. We've now changed those contracts so they're $10.50. And as we move into the forward, some additional clients are going to be paying upwards of $12. So it's more kind of, if you're a large customer, you're going to pay a lower price. If you're a smaller customer, you're going to pay a higher price. Because we have to connect these people up and have to make a return on that connection. But
well, I'm not going to get into what you pay for MCF for gas, but we'll just say that the margins are high.
Are very good. And I think that the other thing to point out here is the fiscal terms in Morocco are fantastic, because we have a 10-year CIT exemption, and we pay no royalty. So all that revenue comes straight down to the bottom line.
And you are planning a 3D, big 240 kilometers squared of 3D seismic.
Right. So we have the entire basin leased, and we have a number of 3Ds. We have 4 of them in total, and so we're shooting another one in a place called Rarb Center, 240 square kilometers of 3D. It's been staked and permitted. The first shot will go off on July 9th, I believe, and it's going to take a month. So another 240 square kilometers of 3D. That will allow us to connect the 3Ds in the south with the 3Ds up in the north for Lala Mamuna. So we'll have a whole area, a swath of 3Ds. At the moment, we've identified about 52 BCF of potential. We need 45 BCF of reserves to fill up the line for 5 years. And the contracts we sign are for 5-year fixed price contracts. So we believe we have sufficient volume to do that, but this will allow us to upgrade and to find some additional potential, because the exploration successes we had in Lala Mamuna opened up a whole area beneath the original target that we were planning, because we have a deeper thermogenic source for gas, which is good for 2 reasons. One is it allows us to look for new structures, and 2, it allows us to potentially produce some liquids along with our gas, because prior to this, the gas source was biogenic, meaning it was 99.6% methane and 0.4% nitrogen, so there was very little liquids in the system. But now that's probably going to change.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds fantastic. Obviously, 3D seismic takes quite a long time to process, but then you're not in a great hurry for it as long as
No, so that's a good point. So we'll shoot it. It'll take a month. It'll take another 3 months to process it and interpret it. And so by the end of the year, we'll be in a position to essentially high grade it. And the plan is to come back in the early part of 2019 with another program of 6 to 12 wells, depending on the rig availability.
Yeah. Just changing the subject slightly, I'm interested in your plans to grow SDX, because obviously, for a man like you, all this growth and everything else isn't enough. You want to grow it more. And I guess there's organic growth in the two countries that we've talked about through licenses and everything else, and then there's acquisitions and so on. So the organic growth is pretty much as you've just been discussed.
So the organic growth, let's just focus on 2018 for the moment. For 2018, we started the year at 3,500 barrels a day, and we're going to exit it at 8,000. That's the plan. So we're going to double production in 2018. Good. As you and I have discussed in the past, the growth target for the company over the next 5 years is to get to 25 to 30,000 barrels a day. So we're going to.
You're nicking all my best questions for later. Well done. Okay.
So so it's going to be a combination of organic and inorganic. So I think that we've demonstrated to ourselves anyway that we can do accretive acquisitions through the circle opportunity. But we're continuing looking as you and I have discussed. We always have our eye on what the market's doing.
I'm more interested. Funny enough, I always ask a question about acquisitions, and funny enough, I know that what the answer is going to be because you're always looking.
Right.
I'm actually more interested in a way of asking what you think about what the asset market is like at the moment in a way, because it's different at 75 and at 50, not just because, as I found out in the past, sellers' expectations get too high, but other people come into the market that weren't there before and start paying silly prices.
I think that's the dynamic that we're seeing at the moment for two reasons. Firstly, Egypt, which is our primary market, went through a very difficult period from 2011 probably until the beginning of 2017. Very challenging environment, government changes, fiscal issues, majority of which have been sorted out, receivable problems. And I got to give the government credit. They have really delivered on a lot of things that they said that we needed from them. So they've done that. So that has created some additional competition from companies like us that are looking for opportunities. In addition to that, we're seeing a number of players that are coming into the market that weren't there before. They could be PE-backed management teams. They could be companies coming from other areas, seeing what's happening there. So I would say the market's changing from, one, the price expectations, which you pointed out, and then two, just the competition. There are a lot more people that are bullish on North Africa and Egypt in particular. So we're seeing that dynamic change. Now, it doesn't mean there still aren't opportunities there, but it means you have to be very, very, I would say, disciplined in what you approach.
And you've talked about increasing the asset base in North Africa before.
Yes.
Does that mean you're still looking at other countries, or do you think you've got more than enough to do in Egypt and Morocco at the moment?
Well, I think when we describe North Africa, we think of three countries: Morocco, Tunisia, and Egypt. Right. I think, and we're looking at all three. In Morocco, we're the only producer, so we're the ExxonMobil of Morocco. In Tunisia, it's a place that I worked in the past, and I really enjoy working there. So we're looking at opportunities there. But the biggest market is Egypt. It's the deepest. It's the most liquid. It's where we understand it well. So those are the areas that we're really focused
English
on.
people like talking about Tunisia this morning, just this morning, but.
I'm sure they do.
Before we get to the end, because time, as always, is running out, but we've had a good talk through. SDX is currently at the top of the bucket list, which is good.
Fantastic.
Percentage increase, I think someone pointed out, was something like 200% or more since you came to the market 2.5 years ago, which is fantastic. What would you say to investors? Why should they still be excited about SDX and from here?
Well, I think you should be excited for a number of reasons. One is we have a lot of potential within the portfolio. So we can see our ability at the moment to double production. If you go to our website, we have a presentation out there where we look at all the assets that we have, divided between core NAV and essentially RENAV. Yeah. And if you look at it on a kind of an unrisked RENAV basis, we believe the corporation should be worth about $650 million. We're trading right now at about below 200. So you can see just from the opportunities in front of us, this is before the 3D, before any other successes, we see the ability to triple the value here. So again, I think it's our disciplined approach to our growth, our fiscal stewardship, because we've maintained our pretty healthy cash position, and just the opportunity set that we've exposed ourselves to. I think we have the ability and the track record to deliver on these things. And so I think that's what makes us excited about it.
And you mentioned earlier on, because I was going to say that you've got 8 to 10,000 target, and long term production is increasing all the time. So cash flow is increasing all the time. So you've got, as we said right at the beginning, plenty of cash flow. Just to finish off, the dream, Paul, for you and the management team at SDX, you've always said to me, the long-term goal is to become a full cycle E&P company with, as you said just now, 25,000 barrels a day. Tell us the dream in the years.
Well, again, for us, over the next 3 to 5 years, we get to 25 to 30,000 barrels a day, a market cap of $1 billion, and then we look to exit. We don't intend, even though I said we're the ExxonMobil of Morocco, we don't intend to be ExxonMobil. We're in it for for the transaction aspect of it. So a lot of people ask us now. You pointed out we're generating between $3 and $4 million a month in cash. Are we going to pay a dividend? No, we're not going to. That's not our plan. Our plan is to continue to put those assets into the ground and grow the business. And so everyone's going to benefit when at some point in the future we do a trade and we sell the business. But it's going to be north of $1 billion before we even consider it.
I like the sound of that. I'm sure the shareholders and the investors would like the sound of that. And actually, it replays what was at the time, a big call. Circle and Egypt and getting money out and so on. So I'm sure the shareholders would commend you for that.
Well, when we came to AIM, we were worth $10 million.
I remember meeting you. Paul, thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a joy to see you again, and I'm so pleased that the SDX story is doing so well. Thank you very much for watching the Core TV CEO interview. My name is Malcolm Grahamwood. I've been with Paul Welch, CEO of SDX Energy today. Thank you very much indeed.